Okay, I am just realizing I came back to Houston because this is where I found out that I was working here when I found out that when I heard that my little brother was dead. And I was walking around in Willowbrook Mall. It was like noon. And I was a few months pregnant with my first kid. And I guess I'd been married a little over a year. And I had woken up at 4 a.m. with this huge feeling of peace. And I didn't usually feel that way because I was pregnant and it felt like I was possessed. So but I woke up and I had this huge feeling of peace and calm and like just completeness, basically. I was just happy as could be. And my husband at the time was out of town working as usual. And so it was me and the two dogs in an apartment up here off of Copper. I can't remember the name right now. But it was up by Jones. I can't remember all the little neighborhoods in Houston. There are so many of them. But I think the street was named Copperwood. Or maybe that was the apartment complex. Anyway, so I would get up. I was doing my pharmacy internship for Kroger, and so I'd get up at like 5 a.m. and walk the dogs and go to the gym, and then I'd go to work for, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours. I was training at Kroger, so I was working for I had graduated school, but I wasn't licensed yet. So I was working as an intern, and I think I was making like $26 an hour, which was better than what I was making when I was in pharmacy school, because that was just, I think it was like $12 an hour, and I was an intern then too. Anyway, I think it feels like I'm always an intern for something. But I mean, it's because I keep moving up. I keep moving up. I'm always trying to grow and learn something. I've been like an entrepreneur intern for freaking this whole last 2 years for sure. But anyway, yeah, but I had that day off. So I went to the mall instead. And I was walking around. I didn't hardly ever had days off. Anyway, so I was walking around in Willowbrook Mall. I think I was looking for a pair of jean shorts, to be honest. And my aunt called, and she lives like in Washington State. And it was like 1 o'clock, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was, "So I'm walking around the mall." And she's like, "What?" I was like, "I'm looking for a pair of jean shorts." And she's like, "What?" I was like, "What's going on?" And she says, "Your brother died at 4 a.m. And I was like, "Oh, well, nobody," actually, maybe I should have told them that he died, because I didn't know that that was what I felt was when he came. Like, I think he reincarnated as my child, actually. I think, but that was, I'm so confused. But it felt like he came home to me. But nobody ever, like, they didn't call me for, I'm confused now. He came home, okay, so my little brother died and he came home to me. Does that mean he was not my little brother? Does that mean he was my child? Oh, well, he is, but oh, huh. This is, okay, okay. I'm so confused. So is this the way our realities work? It's like we are the God in our reality? I don't understand. Well, what it feels like is, it feels like almost like I feel more whole. Maybe it's just after I processed the grief. Maybe that was what it was. Because I've just been like grieving all day. Well, really, for the past 19 years. I've tried not to feel it most of the time. But the thing is I haven't, like, my family doesn't, we've been basically no contact since Doug died. So I'm like, well, why did it take y'all 8 hours? Like, I mean, y'all spent the first, like, 30 something years of my life convincing me that what I knew was my imagination. You know? Like all the things that I felt and sensed, that it was my imagination. So when he died and I felt him come home, like, to my heart, I thought that was just my imagination, just like all the other crap, y'all. But I didn't find his body. Like, y'all found his physical body. I didn't know, I didn't make the correlation that he had died and that was him that I felt returned to me. And how would I have known that, you know? How would I have known that? How would I have made that correlation? Because I had no idea that he was, I had no expectation that he would die. You know? So if they're mad at me for not telling them that I knew he was dead before they did, well, you know, I literally, I did the best I could with the information I had at the time. You know, we all have our programming. You know, you want to use what I know, but you don't want me to know what I know. You want to tell me that what I know about God is not true, but then you're mad at me for not telling you what I know. So once I realized how far y'all would go to be right, I just went no contact. Because I knew that y'all had done it somehow. I don't know how. Actually, I do, because Doug told me this earlier today. He said that he had just gotten out of rehab, and he went home to Mandy and the kids, and she was having a big party. And he called my brother because he was like, what do I do? And my brother told him, dude, it's just one drink. And then he called Mandy, and he said, put the pills in the drink. And Doug didn't wake up. That's according to what Doug told me this morning. So, but he's been with me the whole time. I knew, because I knew when we were kids that he was Mary Magdalene. I knew it. I looked at him at a time. He was like maybe 2 years old, and so I was like 9. But he used to speak light language. He was like 4 years old. He would talk. I just remember one word. It was like he said, "Oh, she shot," and it stuck with me all these years. And he was just so funny. He was a trip. So creative, my God. He used to, when he was in 5th grade, he used to, he was such a little businessman. He used to, well, he used to walk from his elementary school back to my parents' house, which it wasn't that far, but it went past the lake, and all the high school kids hung out at the lake. So he used to walk that far every day from elementary school. And I think I was in high school, and my mom was a social worker. Go figure. She's working social work, and my little brother's walking home from school every day. How does that make sense, Because who was, who was watching him, right? Like, how did she not see that as a social worker, because my dad made enough money that my mother did not need to work. But she chose to work because, I don't know. Anyway, that's just the facts. I don't know why she chose to work. I can only conjecture. But so he used to walk home from school past all these high school kids, and he was like 8 years old. He started doing drugs. Okay, we'll just keep it simple. At 8. And he was doing cocaine and marijuana and drinking on his way home from elementary school. And I had not even started with any of that stuff. Well, no, that's not true. I mean, on my own, I didn't do it, but my aunt used to take us on the weekends, and she'd take my sister and I out to the bars. I think we were like 13 and 14 years old, and she'd feed us drinks. And I think she used us as bait, like for dudes. Yeah, basically. But that was my whole childhood, though. That was my whole childhood. Both my parents did it. And they did it to my little brother, too. That's why, I mean, I assume that's why he was doing drugs at 8. I know they just didn't like us. But they didn't like themselves, to be fair. It wasn't necessarily anything about us. They didn't like themselves, and we were reflections of that, basically, you know. I wonder if my laundry's done. Hold on. Okay. Ooh, cold. My laundry's still going. The dryer's still going anyway. I'm down to 1 load of laundry a week, I think. Anyway. And basically 1 suitcase of clothes. It's just like a travel thing. Anyway, I gotta get rid of my umbrella and my yoga mat, probably. There's a donation box next door. I'm gonna get put it in, I guess. I don't know if they need a yoga mat and an umbrella, but, you know. What else? Oh my gosh. I was sitting here maybe 30 minutes ago before I started filming this, listening to a guy from Australia, tarot reader. And he's given me the exact perfect advice, like what I've been, like, you know, just racking my brain trying to figure out, like, what is going on? I can't see what I can't see. And then I realized I'm not really listening to other people when they try to talk directly to me, even if it's like a salesperson, you know. It's like, but I realized too today, because the sales guy called me and he said I'd filled out a form, which I did fill out a form, but I didn't schedule the call. So it was interesting that they called me. Anyway, because it's like, why do I ever schedule a call if I can just like not, and they'll call me? You know? It's like, well, if you want to work with me, you'll call me, right? Versus me, if I schedule a call, then I'm like looking for their services. But if they're calling me, then they're looking. I mean, it's like, you called me, what can I help you with? I don't know. Anyway.
Sorry.
I was, girls playing in the stairwell. I always did that too. What else? Shit. Anyway, I mean, like, my life has gotten so bizarre. I'm sitting in a stairwell making a video, like a journal, whatever, a vlog, we'll call it, whatever, YouTube, I don't care, whatever. On a Saturday night at, like, I think it's like 10 o'clock. Maybe it's not that late. But I'm like, how did my life get to this? Like, I don't understand. What am I doing here? You know? Had I been like, what am I supposed to be filming? What am I supposed to be talking about? It's like, your life is so freaking bizarre, Lisa. You just need to video it, because nobody will believe your stories. Like, you know, like, my life has been like unfreaking believable, story after story after story for the past, I don't know, really the whole time. It's like, I'm like, how did I not see this coming? Like, like, okay, here's an example. I'd been driving around the country for almost 2 months, and I had been wanting to camp. This is, okay, I got a divorce. Okay, first off, I was working as a pharmacist at Baylor St. Luke's, and it was like, it was like, I guess, kind of my ideal job. And then it wasn't. And I decided what I really want is to do this from the quiet and comfort of my home. And then I got the opportunity to pilot their telepharmacy program. And so I did that, and I built it up to 13 other pharmacists. And then I was like, what's next? I need another project, which I had been building like a coaching business in the background. Really, the whole time I was in pharmacy, I was mentoring pharmacy students, and residents, and I was a Google super user, and I was an Epic super user. I taught all the doctors and nurses and pharmacists and everybody how to do all the smart chats. It was basically AI. It was early AI. Well, I guess it probably was AI, but anyway, you do like dot CBC, and it would populate in the CBC lab information. So I just had created these smart phrases. Well, they were like, I just created a note with it's like name, there's like a little code you put for the name and age and the different demographics of the patient, and then I'd populate in the labs, and then I'd have like a yes or no based on, like, it's an algorithm. You got to look at the same things every patient, I had one for warfarin, I had one for vancomycin, I had one for Lovenox, like, because depending on, and I don't know if this is still the thing because I let my license lapse, but depending on the weight of the patient or the renal function, you had to, or not the weight, but the weight or the BMI or the renal function of the patient, you had to adjust the dose. Where we had a policy where in some cases we could adjust the dose, and in some cases we could recommend that the physician adjust the dose. So I had a different smart phrase for each of those. It was like .LOVE for Lovenox. So very interesting. Anyway, so I had it kind of down to a science. I had it very systematized, and I could, but also whenever I didn't know I could do this until I was working from home. When I would pull up the patient on the computer, I would get the energetic imprint of the sort of the whole order thing, like whether the order was appropriate or not. I'd also get like the energetic imprint of the patient, like where the blockages in their energy systems were. And I would get like a knowing of why that, like their father died or whatever it is. I guess based on my life experiences, it was like, oh, I felt that way. Or maybe that wasn't necessarily why they felt that way, but it's like I felt that way when I had this other thing happen, kind of. Anyway, and then I would just like offer compassion, because that was how I had to heal it for me. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry that you lost your father, or that you felt this way that I can feel in your body. And I would use Ho'oponopono. Well, I'm so sorry, that's compassion key. I took a course in that. And then Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian prayer. It's I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And I started using that one when my oldest child started lying to me. And I was like, why are you lying? Like, I don't punish you. Like, we just like have a open conversation when you. But I guess it was just because they were trying to have their own sense of individuation. Like they didn't want to, because they knew that if they disagreed with me, I would ask them a question about it. And then they'd try to they'd explain it, and I would be like, well, I don't agree. And then they had trouble not abandoning their own perspective for mine, not conforming to who they thought that I wanted them to be. Right? And so that's when they started lying, which I didn't realize that until just now. But also, I think we talked about it several times after that, and I realized that I was doing that myself, because they would ask me, how are you feeling, Mom? And I'd be like, oh yeah, everything's wonderful, and I'm so happy. And I was lying, So I was modeling that behavior to them, even though I thought I was sort of making their life easier. It was actually not. It was being dishonest to myself, which is the worst part, right? Because you're not the only person. You can't lie to yourself. You are your subconscious mind. Your subconscious knows the difference. Every time you lie, it's like, it's like you're keeping a scorecard and you're going, yep, there's another time, there's more evidence that I'm a liar. There's more evidence that I'm a liar. Every time you do that, even though it's just like saying, I feel fine when you don't feel fine at all. You know? And I know it seems harsh to tell people how you really feel about stuff, you know? But then I got very particular about who I spend time with, you know? Because not everybody, you know, sometimes people are just mean to you, and then if you tell them how you feel, they try to make it your fault. So it's like, okay, so I just need to not hang around those people because they don't care how I feel. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is it just me? I know I'm very sensitive, though. But I know that there are other people who are very sensitive too, who will appreciate my brutal honesty or my perspective, you know? It's just my perspective. So I quit hanging out. I mean, I think today I just realized that I was letting this guy kind of like tell me who I could be. If that makes any sense. It was like he didn't want me to build a business without him. It's like, well, then show up. If you're not going to show up, I'm going to build a business without you. Like, you've had 2 years. You could have shown up. You want to talk, but you don't want to show up. You want to talk to everybody about us, but you don't want to actually stand and look me in the eye, or even call me. So don't bother showing up now, because I'm done. So yeah, I'd rather be single than go back to you. Or go find you, chase you down. Definitely rather be single. I don't care where you live. Interesting. What does that mean? Oh, am I projecting? I don't care where he lives, so I don't care where I live. I'm confused now. Again. So if he's a reflection of me, right? Or a projection of me. So we're actually like inverse. So he's like super particular about, he wants everybody to know who he is and where he lives. Right? And I've been in this kind of hermit phase. And actually, I felt for a long time, I felt ashamed of where I live. Now I'm kind of like used to, I'm like, And people are like, you get to live in hotels all the time? I'm like, yeah, but I don't like actually have a place. And they're like, that's amazing. And I'm like, is it? I've been trying to see it that way, but I hadn't yet, you know? I mean, I do appreciate it. It's way better than the Salvation Army or the VA. But it's not my ideal. So I've been working on a business plan to change that. It's like, I don't even know where to start. My life is like such a disaster. But somehow, I guess it's perfect. Whatever, I don't know how. So here's the deal. I got a divorce 2 years ago. And I drove the car for a couple months while my family was stalking me. And I thought that it was, I didn't know who it was. But I thought it was Dwayne. And actually I think it was him and them. Because they couldn't get me, quote unquote, under control. I don't know what under control was supposed to mean, but nobody ever said, nobody ever asked me anything. It's just like, or maybe I just wasn't able to hear what they were wanting from me. But, well, they wanted me to stay with my ex-husband, but maybe I should have, who knows. I'm glad now that I didn't know, because he really didn't like me very much. I think he thought he did, though. I don't know. He definitely didn't want to let me go. And he made my life hell. And I didn't want to go because I knew he'd never let me keep my kids. I knew he would never, because it was always a constant competition. For like, I used to work every other weekend. And so, and he'd go out of town during the week. So it was like, I'd get the kids on Monday, and they'd just be kind of like, it's like they would never come out of their rooms. By the time I got home on Sunday, it was like they had probably been in their rooms the whole weekend. But then, you know, like, and maybe that's what they wanted to do, I don't know, but I do think maybe I expected them to entertain me, because I was like, I guess, feeling lonely. And I just wanted to spend time with them. But also, I think I always knew when my little brother died, it was like, oh my gosh, like, I had no idea that I wouldn't have like a full lifetime with him. Actually, I did know that as a child. I used to have dreams about it all the time, that he died. But thankfully, he lived to be 25. But anyway, it was like prophetic dreams. But anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I think he was trying to tell me that I shouldn't marry my ex-husband before I did. I think he's the one. And I didn't realize that I could hear. I think, yeah, he was my twin flame, like, which is weird to me because we were siblings, I guess. But it was like a business partner in a sense, because it was like we spoke the same language. Like, I don't know if it's our minds or our hearts or whatever. It's like we understood each other, okay? I guess is what I'm saying. It's like we were on the same frequency of like we were playing it like it was a game, you know? And we were like teammates. Right? We were like, this is what, and actually I was thinking, I'm gonna go to this panic room because panic room, you work together as a team to escape unusual situations, right? Which I've been living this whole life, like definitely since, well, they put him in, what's it called? Boarding school when he was like 10. And I know a lot of stuff happened to him when he was there. And then he came back, he was in and out of rehab, and then I was in the Navy. And then, so I don't think we even lived in the same vicinity, but we used to write letters and stuff. Let's see, when did, I don't know, anyway. What was I gonna say? So when he died, I felt like a piece of my soul or a piece of his soul or whatever. It's like I think he incarnated in me as my firstborn daughter, which makes, oh, I'm not gonna be able to publish this. Well, maybe I can. Which makes sense in a way. Or maybe he did the destiny swap. Oh, that's what my parents did, the destiny swap with Doug, and because I think I had just found out that Riley was a girl. And I think that's maybe why they killed him. Because they're so dead set against me being a girl. Because they were dead set against Doug being Mary Magdalene reincarnated. They were like furious and disgusted and all that, because to them that counts as trans, and trans is against the Catholic Church and all this like bullshit. And so this is also probably in many, I'm sure it's in lots of books already, and if not, it is now, I guess. But it's interesting, when I was in pharmacy school doing my residency, I guess. Was it a residency or a internship? Anyway, regardless, it was my last one, and I had this patient who had, I think it's called SIADHR. It may not have been that one, but anyway, it's a cortisol like malformation or syndrome, because this is not doing any blame. It's just can develop when the mother is under extreme amounts of stress, is that the excess cortisol makes, I'm trying to remember the mechanism of action, but essentially what happens is the child is born with anatomical variations that are associated with like what humans consider gender, whatever. Okay. And I don't remember exactly how this child was born, that was born in the hospital that I was doing my residency at. I don't remember exactly, but they had to monitor. It was like the adrenals weren't functioning correctly, so then they had to, like, I don't remember if they had to supplement or if they had to suppress the cortisol. I can't remember if they were given steroids. Anyway, I wrote up a paper on it. This was back in 2005, I guess. Yeah, because actually, shit. It was when I was pregnant with Riley. That was such a stressful rotation because my preceptor kept trying to fail me at every turn. And the hospital director or the pharmacy director was like, I don't know what's going on. She was like, but I'm not gonna let her fail you, but I don't know why she wants to give you an F, but I'm not gonna let her fail you because you've done everything she's asked of you and then some. And it's like, I don't know, she definitely hates me though. But she had come from, is it UT in Austin? And I was going to pharmacy school in Louisiana, which is where I grew up. I was born in Monroe, and I went to pharmacy school in Monroe in Louisiana. And, but this rotation was in Shreveport, and I can't remember if it was Willis-Knighton or which hospital it was, but no, it might have been the University Hospital. I think it was the University Hospital. Anyway, yeah, it was, because there were multiple teachers. We were doing maybe Zoom calls. I don't know if it was Zoom or what. They were live streaming in teachers from Shreveport to Monroe. That was back in the early 2000s. Because not that many people wanted to live in Monroe. Plus it was, why would you if you could do that, right? Anyway, so some of our pharmacy classes were streamed from the hospital in Shreveport to Monroe, where I was in school. And then I went and did some, I think I did 2 rotations there. My in-laws, ex-in-laws now, but they lived in Shreveport, and I had been married just I guess 6 months or so, and I lived with my in-laws for those 2 rotations, and it was an experience for sure. But it did give me a lot of insight into why my husband was the way that he was. It gave me a whole different, but then I made a lot of excuses for it, because it was like, oh, well, I know why he does that, because his mother's like this and his father's like this. But it was like, not what I considered healthy for me. Which, I mean, it's not a judgment call on them. It's just, like, to me, that it felt really unhealthy. For example, they would eat at like 10 o'clock at night. Like, that was the usual, but they would start prepping dinner at like 5. And I'm like, okay, thinking, because that was not what I was used to growing up. You don't like cook for 5. I mean, there's not actually anybody in the kitchen while this cooking is going on. It's like, take the food out and sit it on the counter, and then like an hour later go and take the vegetables out of the bag, and then like an hour later, so it was just kind of like, I was like, what the hell is going on? I had no sense of control, basically. And it was like, I was like, would you like me to cook dinner? Can I do that? And they're like, oh, no, I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, I don't mind, like, let me cook dinner, please. I'm hungry. I want to go to bed. I'm pregnant, and like, I got to get up for 5 a.m. So I started buying myself like the little frozen meals, because I was like, and I told him, I was like, I'm sorry, I can't stay up this late because I'm pregnant and I got to get up in the morning, and the food had been sitting out all who knows how long. So I don't know. Their food hygiene is different than mine. Of course, I was in healthcare, so I can be a little neurotic about it. But one time, okay, this is messy. We showed up at their house, and there was this bowl. It's a nice, like, Martha Stewart bowl full of cold water and cut up potatoes for like French fries, because it was like, I think it was during Lent, so we were doing a fish fry. We would go in town for, there were a lot of good things about them, for sure. We would go in town for like a fish fry on the weekend, and the bowl of potatoes would be sitting, it had like a little outhouse kind of thing. It'd be sitting on the back of the toilet in the outhouse, and I'm like, toilet potatoes, eat delicious. I'm like, why are these, there's like a million other places you could put the potatoes. Why would they be on the back of the toilet? Anyway, I mean, it sounds like one of those things where the women have the ham, and they cut the ends off. And, like the mom, when she does the ham for whatever, Easter or whatever, she cuts the ends of the ham off. And then they're like, why do you cut the ends of the ham off? And they're like, because my mother always cut the ends of the ham off. They're like, well, why did she always cut that? Oh, well, it's because she had a pan that would not fit it, so she had no choice but to, but we keep doing things that maybe didn't make sense. I mean, I know I do it all the time in my life, and I'm wondering if that toilet fries is one of those, or if that was just an oddity. But Um, anyway, I still can't get that out of my head. It was a little bit traumatic to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, how many times have I eaten here? Anyway, sorry. That's not very kind. But people like just bewilder me, you know? Some of the stuff that they do. It's like, oh my gosh, what in the hell? I'm trying to think of some more of those. I don't know, but when I think it was during COVID, and it's in probably on one of my old Facebook things. I would sit out by the pool and I would just be maybe a little bit high, and I would just be like, why is this? Why is that? Why? And I realized that, because we weren't around that many people during COVID, and before that, I would kind of bitch about my coworkers to my ex-husband a lot. And he would bitch about his sisters, and we'd bitch about people a lot together. And then I realized, man, I feel worse about myself when I do that. And then I realized that really we're just projecting our own stuff onto them, because it's like they're all like, they're just being them, and the meaning is the meaning we're assigning to whatever they're doing. So that came from our subconscious mind. So then I took this class called Compassion Key. And then I started offering myself compassion every time I judge somebody else or criticize or what's the word I'm thinking? Every time I'd gossip about somebody, I'd be like, oh, where am I doing that too? And then I offer myself compassion. I had to have a picture of the 4-year-old version of me sitting by I would do this while I was working, while I was doing pharmacy orders. I had a picture of 4-year-old me sitting at my computer monitor, and I would get like these waves of feelings because I was verifying orders, and I was picking up all this stuff from the patients, from the doctors, from anybody that accesses that electronic medical record. I could get there. I don't know. I was downloading. Anyway, like the feeling of it, I was downloading. And probably the knowing of it, but not like, I don't know. Anywho. And actually now I've kind of like conglomerated it all to like a collective, which I think is what I was doing there. It was like I was kind of learning the algorithm so I could kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Extrapolate. Right? To the rest of the collective, because Houston's a pretty diverse community. They got people from all around the country, all around the globe here. So I could kind of like get a little feel for the collective trauma, the collective and ancestral stuff, because it was like, I know in the hospital I worked with people from Nigeria, people from Ethiopia, people from Sudan, people from Taiwan, people from Vietnam, people from Mexico, people from, Egypt, people from all over the place. And I was born and raised here in the U.S. And I have like a wide I have like Irish and, I mean, not wide. It's European. It's not wide, but it's widely European. Anyway, but in my past lives, I've been everything everywhere. Which I realized, when I got in the car, when I left my ex-husband, I got in the car and with my 2 suitcases and my faith. And I drove around the US for like 2 months. Mostly Arizona, New Mexico, California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado. I did go to Illinois once or twice. Texas, of course. Louisiana. I don't know if I went through Oklahoma or not. Anywho. The first couple months when I was driving, I would have these past life regressions, spontaneous past life. It was like a shamanic initiation or like a high priestess initiation thing. I didn't know what was going on. It was very bizarre. And I would have these spontaneous past life regressions, and I would remember like the death and then the lifetime preceding the death. And I would feel it, and it was like just, but then I was like, that's how I keep repeating this other pattern in my life. Like I couldn't figure out, but that's like the origin story of it, like sort of like the original fracture of my consciousness, or the, it was the illusion that I believed, the lie. So it was like I would go all the way back to the first time, most potent time of, it was like the originations of sin. Does that make sense? Not to put a Christian spin on it, but that's only, I went to 13 years of Catholic school, so that's kind of like the lens that I see it through a lot of different lenses, but that's how I see that part. But I think it's like when this twin flame dude or whatever he is, karmic or catalyst, we'll just say he was a catalyst. However that's what it was. Like I was going through a divorce, but I was kind of like dragging my feet with it because I didn't really want to get a divorce. I just knew that he wasn't good for me, and he wasn't particularly good for my kids, but I didn't know how. I was like, I have to extract myself and figure out how to extract them. I don't know. I don't know why I did it the way I did, but I did. And probably I'll know later why I did it the way I did it. It just... So anyway, but I had told my ex-husband on Easter, and that it was like, yeah, well, this isn't serving either one of us anymore. Like I have to go. And I was like, you tell me that you don't know why you put up with me, so just let me go, And he didn't really argue, but he was mad, like, how dare you, like, leave me? But, like, I definitely don't want you here, but I don't want you to go either. Anyway. And then my kids chose to stay with him. And so, and I still hadn't even filed for divorce yet. So I was like, well, I guess I better go. They seem to have been voted off the island. I mean, you know, I just said, hey, how about I go? And they're like, yeah, how about you go? And I just, it was like I believed all my value was in them, you know, and what I was doing for them and me taking care of them, and, you know, and they didn't see it, so it was kind of a waste of my time and energy. But so this dude shows up in my DMs, and I was talking to him, and I recognized that he was also writing this thing that I followed called Raven Wolf. It was like he was narrating my life. It was from the perspective of a woman. And this is, I mean, a big, muscular, like, manly man. And somehow, I don't know how I knew it was him. Well, I knew it was him because I commented on one of his posts. And I don't follow celebrities, but I commented on one of his posts. He was telling one of his daughters that you get to create the story of your life. And I was like, I've never heard anyone else say that before, other than me. Like, in those words, I guess. It was like the exact same sentiment that I used to instill in my little brother all the time. Or tried to. You know, it was like that's what I had been doing, like, been trying to coach him out of the addiction. And, like, he did build a business and he was doing well from what I could tell, you know, but I was not intricately involved in his finances or anything like that, which I'm sure that the rest of my family was, because they're intricately involved in mine still. I can't seem to get them out of it. They got all kinds of, like, I don't know, there was apparently a trust when I was little that was left to me that they figured what Lisa doesn't know won't hurt her. And then they've been trying to off me for the past 2 years since I left my husband. And they got him, or they teamed up to try to, you know, get me to off myself, which isn't happening. I gotta go check my laundry again.